Ever walked into a store just to look and walked out with 5 shopping bags? You can probably thank Mr. Rakesh Biyani for that. For over 3 decades, he hasn't just built stores, he's built temptation zones from pantaloons to Central, Brand Factory to Style Union. He's made sure that window shopping is just a myth. And while most of us are still searching for the perfect fit, he's busy integrating RFID and AI-driven supply chains to make shopping faster, smarter, and smoother than ever. Because let's admit it, retail therapy should be stress-free. From revolutionizing retail to making sure there's always something new to shop for, he's changed the way India buys, browses, and bags the best deals. Let's hear it for Mr. Rakesh Biyani.
And for Mr. Lohia, please.
They say life is a journey, not a destination. Vikas Lohia just makes sure the journey is on the fastest, most efficient wheels. From freight wagons to electric commercial vehicles, he's helping shape the future of mobility, making sure India moves faster, smarter, and more efficiently. But wait, he's not just about business. When he's not building the next big thing, you'll find him on the tennis court, the cricket field, or even the golf course. Because strategy isn't just for boardrooms. With a keen eye for innovation and a global network of partnerships, he's taking Jupiter wagons to new heights, while still finding time to be on multiple leadership boards and forums. A business leader, a sports enthusiast, and someone who knows how to balance it all with style. Please welcome Mr. Vikas Lohia.
Thank you.
Honestly, would love to make you feel right at home. And what's a better way than a hearty Indori welcome? Inviting Mr. Akash Joshi and Ankur Pathak, founder of IMA, to please be here and welcome our guests. So Mr. Biyani and Mr. Lohia are no strangers to Indore. Mr. Biyani, whose deep retail ties, and Mr. Lohia, whose presence in Pithampur makes them practically a local. Thank you so much, Mr. Joshi and Mr. Pathak. Now let's deep dive. Honestly, no presentations, no monologues, just an honest, insightful conversations about business, leadership, and what the future holds. Mr. Biyani, please tell about your journey so far.
Well, it's been a relatively a very long journey. I've been building retail businesses and retail brands in India for almost close to about 33 years. Built many brands that most of you must have visited. We did have a lot of stores here earlier in Indore also. Be it the Big Bazaar, Central, Brand Factory, those. I spent bulk of my time building clothing businesses or fashion businesses. Been very passionate about clothing the aspiring youths of the country. And the last few years, last 3 years, I have been sort of working together with a team of people at Nexon Omniverse. And we built a business called Style Union, which are large format private brand retail stores. We've got 100 of those now in operation in 3 years. In fact, tomorrow will be our third anniversary of opening of the first store. And the 100 stores have all been built in the southern part of India. So very focused and very concentrated. But in the 3 decades that I have built, I've seen stunning amount of change in terms of how things get done. Just for a reflection of what is being really changed and as a parameter. When I built my very first concept, which was Pantaloons, started off in Calcutta, very close to Vikas's home. It took us 15 years to build the first 70 stores. And in Style Union, it has taken us 2 years to build the first 70 stores. So that's the speed of change that we live in today.
Interesting. Mr. Lohia, your journey in manufacturing industry has been remarkable, and the performance of your stock says that. Let us take back to the early days. What were the biggest challenges you faced when you started, and what pivotal moments shaped you as a leader?
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank EMA for inviting me here. Jupiter is relatively a young company. Unlike Mr. Biyani's, our journey started in 2006. So my dad was always, company executive. When we were growing up, he was working for somebody, and but he always had this ambition to, have his own manufacturing base, but he never had the courage to go for it then. So, I studied in America and I was working there. My brother was, both of us were working in America. And then, one fine day, my dad was like, just quit your job and come to India. So we quit our job. My dad quit his job. And then 2006, we started with Jupiter. So it's been a very, learning experience so far. We've had, a lot of difficulties, as you might imagine. Setting up a manufacturing unit in India, and that too in Bengal, at that time was a very daunting task. And I had no knowledge of engineering or manufacturing. I was into investment banking. So it was very daunting for me as a person. And, we bought a asset of a sick company to start with. And you won't believe, when we went to the plant for the first time, there was no boundary wall, there was no office building, nothing. There was just, some furnace and some sheds, that's it. So literally, we were sitting under the tree for the first 2 or 3 months and, doing work from there. So that's the kind of, hardships we faced. So my dad always believed in the railway sector, in the infrastructure sector, which kept us going. And, we started our journey slowly, and today, by God's grace, we are the, the highest, #1 wagon builder in the country. We are proud to say that. And we are listed in the stock exchanges. So all our peers who were, very much ahead of us, they are nowhere in the picture right now. So, yes, so it's been a lot of hard work, but a lot of learnings.
True that is. Mr. Biyani, retail is a reflection of society, people's spending and their aspirations. Over the last decade, what was the defining moment when you felt India was undergoing a major economic and consumer transformation?
So, there's clear statistics around as to when do you think is the tipping point in terms of when the industry is going to move to a different direction, or consumption is going to move to a different direction. Over the years, that number has always been put at about $2,000 per capita income, right? And what does happen beyond $2,000 per capita income is, up to the first $2,000, people are prima facie consuming what is called everyday essentials, where there's hardly any aspiration sort of getting played out. And Thereafter, after $2,000, every incremental income, almost 50 to 60% of that goes into aspirational categories. And clothing will be one of those. And when you think about, travel, holidays, etc., they're all part of that journey. And that's what we are seeing today in India. Right? Our tipping point got a little delayed, COVID delayed it, but we are now at par. We just saw that in the morning session when we saw the per capita income in India moving upwards. And that's the journey. But we're still in very early days. Right? Now, if I had to look at global statistics around it, and we can track down all the countries in the world which sort of passed this number between 1982 to about 2002. 2002 is when China crossed that number at $2,000. And the 10 years thereafter, what you see is almost every single aspirational category consumption goes up by 3x to 4x. Right? And whereas categories like food, and which is also again reflected in the afternoon presentation, where we're talking about that food as a consumption basket has fallen below 50%. And that's part of this entire journey about how countries start consuming once the money is there with the people. Right? And that's an important one. Of course, influencing that is everything to do with mobility and mobile phones and access and easy access on data. And that makes customers a lot more aware of what is happening. Right? And that also sort of helps a lot. So one has been waiting for a long time for this tipping moment to come. The moment has arrived, and one is looking forward to building a lot more businesses in this country. What's given for sure is there will always be this 1.4 billion or more people. Right? And hopefully one day, bulk of them will be in a position to consume. Right? And that's where opportunities come in to serve these customers, right? Be it through products or be it through services.
Mr. Loya, you mentioned you started late and the company is quite young. But Jupiter Wagon has grown from being a component manufacturer to an industry leader in railways and logistics solution. If you had to pinpoint one strategic move or a turning point that significantly accelerated the growth, what would it be?
It's very difficult to pinpoint one turning point. I can tell you 2 or 3 turning points which accelerated Jupiter's growth. Even when we were producing for Indian Railways, we were thinking global. I mean, we wanted to get best global practices into the railway industry. So we contacted one of the biggest wagon manufacturers in Europe, Tatra Vagonka. And we got them into India, and they were so impressed with our management and our layout and everything that now they are 20% partners in our company. So that proved a tipping point for us that opened Jupiter to a lot of European technologies. And right now we have JVs with 5 or 6 top European companies, and we are producing in India for them and for the Indian Railways. So that was number one. Secondly, I mean, the acquisition of SEPCO, the company through NCLT. So SEPCO was into, truck bodybuilding, and they also had a wagon unit in Jabalpur. So SEPCO gave us a pan-India presence and a kind of diversification into commercial vehicles, which later led us into EV. So, and thirdly, of course, our listing in the market, which gave us very good impetus, and funds could be easily available for us for our future growth. Yeah.
So retail is no longer just about selling products. It's about experiences, technology, and personalization. With your new venture, what is the fundamental shift you're betting on?
Having built the first set of stores in the 90s and to what one has landed up building now in the 2022 onwards, there's a significant shift in terms of the way you use technology now. Software has become extraordinarily important. Algorithms help you run your supply chain extraordinarily efficient. And everybody says retail is detail, and what the computers and the technology allows you to do is to do a lot of detailing. At the same point in time, one thing is about what you put inside the store, but it's about how do you serve the customer. In a short period of 3 years, we have more than 2,200 employees currently working for us. And to onboard the service level that we want to give to the customer, how do you track? So we use a lot of video analytics today with artificial intelligence layers, which provide real-time notification on service standards being delivered to the customer. So if something gets missed out also, a lot of this is now getting tracked. Now, a lot of this was just not possible to do in the past. Retail can be a very low margin business, so efficiencies play a very, very important role from day one. Today you can use a lot of technology layers, including IoTs, which control everything that can happen in a store. All the 100 stores that we are currently operating, every element of that store can be controlled from a control center in Pune. So it's completely outsourced there. What we try to do is sort of make life simpler for our store teams. They don't get into the routine things. All those things are sort of controlled on a centralized location and automatically scheduled in. That makes their lives that much easier. Now, I would say to you the fact that when you think about the cost of doing all of this, right? Sometimes one thinks the fact that technology costs a lot of money, but unfortunately, the reality is quite different today. The costs have shrunk dramatically, right? That's what has happened, right? There's this drone which has been going around out here trying to shoot, right? When the first set of drone came out in this world, I think it was costing like maybe $300,000. Then it came down to $30,000. Right now it's selling for $300. That's the value of technology for you, right? But what problem with the tech is that every time you put in money into tech but don't use it, of course it's expensive. Of course. Right? So it's all about how you leverage the tech to make your business super efficient, right? For us, we've leveraged the tech. We measure ourselves in terms of how well have we utilized the tech and did it sort of deliver the purpose, right, that was there. So, and it's worked very, very well, right? One of the things that, in the apparel business quite common and everybody looks for an end of season sale, which is when majority of people say, I should go and buy my clothes, aadhe dam mein mil jayega. And Style Union is one brand. In the last 3 years, we've never done a single day of discounting. And using and leveraging technology, leveraging the algorithms, we are able to get 100% sell-through at the price marked on the product.
That's a key takeaway.
Yeah.
A follow-up question on the same. Everybody is avoiding retail. I want to say, nobody wants to invest in stores, the operating lease models, the other costs that have been attracted from a retail store. Why did you choose to stick to the same old conventional way of selling when the country and the world is moving more towards e-commerce?
Well, some time back we had Varun who was talking about which story to believe in, right? To some extent, e-commerce is an amazing model. It's quite interesting in terms of the kind of convenience an e-commerce can provide. I think when we started in e-commerce in India was way back in 2007 and maybe 2012 when we had the world's largest e-commerce company come and open stores here. I remember being at multiple sessions in those period and we used to have somebody from the Planning Commission who would come onto a stage and say to us, saying the fact that by 2022 there won't be any retail stores in India, right? Because e-commerce would take over. But that never happens. The stores are continuing to open. In fact, in all probability, organized retail has opened more stores in the last 3 years than ever before. That's what has really happened. I think what one has to recognize is that there's always going to be coexistence. Right? You can't say that one replaces the other. It's never happened. Just like how everybody talking about AI is not going to replace the job, it's just going to make the job more efficient. Right? That's what AI is going to do. Same way, every model is there. It comes with its own quirks. The current buzz is around quick commerce, instant deliveries, etc., etc. But that's the way disruptions will happen. But I think what does, how do you really create a business to survive all kinds of disruption is just focus on the core, right? And the core is, there's only one guy who pays the money, which is the consumer in the end. You have to serve him. And the only thing that he pays money for is the product. So if you can get two things right, get your product right, ensure the fact that it delivers outstanding value to the consumer, never compromise onto it, right? And if you can add the service to it, you'll always have customers, right? There's no doubt in my mind, right? Second, I think one of the sessions there was a point about the guy who wins, he's like, says, hey, कौन से customer, if you want to be successful in business, you must know आपके customer का customer कौन है. Retail में तो हम तो end customer में हैं, right? So इससे ज़्यादा powerful किसे आता? I think if you ask me, the guy who will control the market are the ones who have access to the customer, right?
Of course.
I can decide tomorrow what gets distributed and what doesn't get distributed because I have access to the customer.
You have that power, of course. Again, a follow-up question. What numbers, just throw some light on the numbers, that what percentage of your revenue comes from the online and offline, and what margins eventually have been from either of them?
So the desire in life is to build a large business for me. I've never thought about building things which are small. And that's the reason one says that, it's like those 100 stores are close to about 8 lakh square feet of retail space. Right? And if I look at what's happening in the online world today, I think the largest brand struggles to go beyond a 600 to 800 crore kind of level. The average number lands up between 60 to 100 crores. Most successful brands in the online world are currently opening stores offline because there's a stagnation beyond a certain size on the online world. I would say to you that even when I look at global statistics around what's happening in terms of penetration of online, in the best case scenario during COVID period, companies reached at about 25 to 27% kind of penetration. But the weighted average penetration in the most evolved market of the world for e-commerce, which happens to be the United Kingdom, is about 18%. Yeah, right? So 82% of the business, even in the United Kingdom, which is the most evolved e-commerce market of the world, remains offline. I think in India, for a very near term, or even for maybe a couple of decades from today, what we are going to see is online stores are going to be the ones which will continue to thrive.
Mr. Lohia, manufacturing is boring. Coming from manufacturing family, I can understand that. And it is always seen as a long-term, capital-intensive industry that's hard to break into. If you had to give few pieces of advice for entrepreneurs who are entering manufacturing as the second generation or entering manufacturing for the first time, how would you guide them? How should they pursue it? And just express some more thoughts on that.
As you know, manufacturing, especially in India, it's not an easy job. And one thing is for certain, you have to get your hands dirty. You have to go onto the shop floor and understand the entire process. You cannot run a company just by sitting in your AC chamber. That's not done. And I learned this the hard way. I mean, since beginning, we were always on the shop floor. Even now, I spend close to 2 to 3 days in a week visiting all my plants. So number one, you have to learn, the entire process and understand it. Otherwise, people will take you for a ride. Second, you have to build a strong and dedicated team. If you have that, half your work is done. At Jupiter, we have been, very blessed that our core team, that started with us in 2005-06, they're still with us. And, we are building newer teams for, all our new projects. So, secondly is team building, which is very important. Thirdly is your finance. I mean, you have to get a balance of debt and equity. You cannot be very highly leveraged as a company because, there will be downturns. And if you're highly leveraged, it puts, big, pressure on your balance sheet. So the right balance of debt and equity is a must. So you have to be, thorough in, whatever you're doing. And manufacturing is not a T20 match, it's a test match. So you have to be prepared for ups and downs. I mean, nowadays people who, get into manufacturing, young graduates, they want result instantly, which is not going to happen in a lot of sectors. And especially in railways, it's for the long run. I mean, we struggle for the, first 4 or 5 years before we could break into, seeing some kind of profit. So you have to be prepared. You have to be patient.
Patience is the key. Mr. Biyani, you have built businesses both in high growth and challenging times. If you go back and have a 5-minute conversation with yourself at any point of time in your career, which moment would you choose and what advice would you give to yourself?
I think, challenges are always going to come, man. In fact, for us, the challenge was quite well publicized. There was an entire portfolio of, close to about 2 crore square feet of retail stores, which ultimately got shut down. Right? And still I'm here sitting, happy to discuss business and discuss the idea that I should keep building. For me, it's very simple. Every challenge that you face is a learning, right? And you have to further strengthen the core of what you want to do. Become much more resolute around what is it that you will get things done, right? And keep building a list of things that you should not do. Right? And the more clearer you are about what you should not do, the better off you can execute on what you should be doing. Right? That's how you sort of go and build. Good part about where we live today in our country, land of opportunities. I think that's what you're hearing since morning, and that's the reality. We can't react based on what's happening in a short term. We can't react based on an index which gets opened at 9 o'clock in the morning every single day. It's not the reflection of what the future of our country is. I think the opportunity will continue to remain. The opportunity is for us to grasp. Right? And I think I must, when I think through now, when we're discussing this and think through all the sessions that have happened since morning, there are so many fundamentals which have been reflected out here, including what Vikas just shared in terms of how you go about building a business. That's the way it is, right? You must understand your business. You must understand the processes that happen in a factory or a retail store. Because what that does for us is that it just makes you more clearer. The more clarity you have, the more clarity your organization will have. And there'll be a common sense of purpose as to why are we together as a team to build something new. Right? That's the answer that is there. But adversities are going to happen. But that doesn't mean that's the end of the world. We still have to live. We have to live for ourselves. We have to live for our families. And that's how you keep going ahead.
Every business leader faces moments of high-stake decisions. Can you share a time when you had to make a bold and unconventional call?
As you know, railway is a very regulated industry, and when we started, we had huge competition, and so railway had this formula where everything was tender based, and railway had this formula where they used to give orders in terms of L1 price as well as your past performance. So we never had any past performance since we were new entrants. So we would always get very low orders. So first couple of years we hardly got any quantity. So as an organization we sat and we thought what could be our strategy so that we could get a sizable order. And the only way we could do that is if we could shock the market. And we shocked the market by reducing the cost of wagons. I mean, we were the lowest. I mean, at that year, we were lower than the next price by 25%. And we could do that because we were a young company. Our overheads were quite low, and we started, doing backward integration where the wagon industry was just sitting on their laurels and doing nothing. So all the critical components which went inside the wagon, we thought, we'll manufacture it ourselves. And that's what we did. And we could, cut down the costs. And today, even today, we are the cost is lowest in the market, even now. So that's how that journey started. And, that was a very bold decision that we took. And the second bold decision that we've just taken is that we are launching our EV commercial vehicle. I mean, it's something very new. I mean, we've been associated with railways for a long time now, but the EV is something that we see a great future in. As India wants to reduce its carbon footprint by 2030, and Jupiter as a group believes in the vision of the Prime Minister. So we've taken the initiative to launch our EV vehicle, which is going to come out in March. We've also, started, producing lithium-ion batteries. And we are happy to announce you that we've introduced the batteries in railways as well. So the new Vande Bharat coaches that are going to be made by Siemens, so you'll see our batteries in them. So yeah, these are some of the bold initiatives we've just taken.
Very grateful to understand about the new diversifications Jupiter is doing. Connected to that, manufacturing isn't about production, it's about building the backbone of the economy, and you're working very hard on it, especially on infrastructure and connected things. So from your perspective, what few things India must get right in the next decade?
Well, I mean, what the government is doing right now, I mean, they're in the right direction. I mean, spending money on infrastructure, which is, very good. I mean, we should have done that, we should have started that, long time back, but what the government is doing is right, and we should accelerate that in the coming years. I think we are still far behind China in that, in terms of the infrastructure, so spending on infrastructure is good. Secondly is reforms. I mean, still, I speak to a lot of European and American companies. They want to get out of China, but still they feel that India needs to reform more in terms of the labor reforms, in land reforms. The government is doing, but as a democratic country, it takes time. So I think we have to increase the speed of reforms. Thirdly is skill. I mean, we have to ensure that the people who are coming into the industry now are well skilled. So the major difference right now between India and China is that in China you'll find 100 people of a similar skill set, but in India you'll find only 10. So there's a huge difference. So institutes like ITI and other institutes must work with CII, FICCI, and even IMA and all that, and understand the needs of the industry and make sure that we are scaling the next generation of workers accordingly. So as you just mentioned in the previous sessions, that AI is coming in, and new technologies are coming in. So India needs to work hard and spend money on R&D. We've never done that. As Indian companies, we hardly spend money on R&D. We are just dependent on outside technologies. But it's high time now that Indian companies and even the government, invest in R&D, and we create our own technologies and then export it to the world.
Truly aligned. As you mentioned of AI, with automation and AI for the global competition and the transforming manufacturing, what do you think Indian manufacturers must do differently to be there on the global scale?
I think, there are two things that manufacturing is what everybody looks for, right? But let's say three things. One is a given, which is say consistency in whatever you do, and that takes care of, creates reliability, right? Next is invest in R&D so that there is innovation, because everybody requires new stuff. And if the innovation can bring in a new set of efficiency in the manufacturing, what's going to ensure is the fact that I think by default, not for now, forever in this world, everybody is looking for that lower price, And lower prices are extremely important, but the only way you can bring lower prices is bringing in more efficiencies in your life, which is where I think China really excelled a lot. Right? They were happy to sort of learn, improve, and reinvent things at a price point which makes it that much easier. Parts of it happens in India. Right? I think we've done this extremely well in the software industry. And I'm sure that given the right environment, this would get rubbed off into many other areas. What could influence this is, I think today, availability of capital is a lot more easier as compared to what it was maybe about 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And that should be one incentive that one has to look at. But manufacturing, or that matter any other sector, efficiency role has to be more important. You can't be another Me Too. You need to think about why will you be successful. And you would have to have a differentiation. I think when I keep hearing Vikash's story, and he has shared a fantastic background around what Jupiter did to break through, where incumbents today are sort of fallen apart and Jupiter is flying high, right? I think a very inspirational story to sort of listen to. A lot of learnings for all of us as we look at building a new business for ourselves or improving on our existing business.
Any favorite book or books or podcast you want to suggest so that we can actually get more deep insights on this sector or passion for the sector?
In the business that I am in, right, I'm not a guy who does ever like to read. I find it very difficult to read. And neither do I find it. I find it extremely boring to listen to what others have to say. But what I like to do is to spend time in the market. I would be, for almost 25, 30 years, I've traveled 180 days a year, and I do that even today. When somebody asks me, where do you live? I say, home is supposed to be in Mumbai, but I'm rarely there. Right? That's the life. It's just fantastic just to go and see what's changing, right? And I must say that in the last few years, in my paradigm of when I was being picked up at the airport today and to brought here, and they said that, Indore aaye hain kya? Of course I have come. I've come after almost 5 years, and I'm quite sure that Indore has changed, right? Because that's what I have seen in anywhere I go into India. And what I have decided to do is the fact that, all these legendary stories around what a market is all about, I think we can't rely on anything, right? I've been multiple times to very small towns now, and I do that very often. And I tell people that I run some of my better performing stores are in Rajahmundry, and half the people don't even know where the hell it exists on the map, right? But it's here in India. It's happening in a rocking town. It has a very busy airport also. That's the reality of our nation here, and that's what is India all about. It is too large a country, and we are all driving the change in India. The change is happening in front of us. We, as people from Indore, I know very well the people in Indore have changed. And one of the stories for the person who picked me up, and we were discussing, what's happening to Indore, and I said to him, when I came to Indore the first time in the 1990s, what got me to here was I had to do a court appearance because one of our businesses had done some lottery ticket scheme, and lotteries were not permitted in Madhya Pradesh at that point of time. And so here we came to take a bail. That's what I had come for. But one thing that I recognize, between the Marwadis and the Sindhis out here, they never shop too much. And I said, so is there something changed? And he says, थोड़ा थोड़ा अभी खर्चा ज़्यादा कर रहे हैं. Right? So that's the fact. So he was trying to induce me that we should come and see. And I've heard a lot of good stuff about the Palazzo Mall, right? Not Palazzo,
Phoenix.
Phoenix. It has a name. Citadel. Citadel yes. Mall, right? I've heard a lot of good things. So change is here to happen, yeah. So, that's happening everywhere in India, right? There's not a single place that I can go to in India which will feel the fact that it's gone backwards. Right?
India is growing. So last 3 minutes, we have an interesting lineup of a rapid fire question session. for slightly lighter and insightful perspective. Very basic, truth and myth. I will read out a statement. You need to tell me it's a truth or a myth, starting with Mr. Biyani. The customer is always right.
That's the truth, yeah.
Retail will be predominantly digital in 10 years. Physical stores will bleed.
I think it's a myth.
Mr. Lohia, the best businesses are built in recession.
No, I think it's a myth. No,
Work-life balance is possible for a CEO.
of course.
Now the next round is confessions of a CEO. Mr. Lohia, what's one business mistake that still makes you cringe?
Not paying your vendors or suppliers on time. I think that the mistake that we did initially, now we don't. Yeah.
What's one crazy idea you had and actually worked?
What I've realized is the fact that crazy ideas don't work here. What works is, sensible ideas work. If you have less capital in life, be sensible. Making it crazy lasts only for an interim period. Yeah.
So basically every CEO needs a therapist or at least a good moderator to make them confess. Let's do one common question. What's one business advice, I will repeat, what's one business advice that you think actually is useless?
When people say you have to spend X number of hours in doing work, I don't think that quantity matters, it's the quality.
Got it right for you, Mr. Biyani. He would be in the same view?
I totally agree. I think it's the quality of the work that it's the application that you do it. I was talking to somebody and he was, he wanted to ask this very precisely this, that I keep walking in my office and I see sometimes people are on their phone, etc. I said, what's the problem, right? Even you are there on your phone. As long as he's done his work, it's good. If you believe the fact that you're not utilizing his capacity more, think harder about what have you done wrong. Yeah. So it's that's what I would say to you. If you put it, I find that people do their work, and the only thing that as a leader you need to do is to bring a lot more clarity in terms of what your expectation from the person is.
After all the controversies, these were the best answers the people loved. So let's not close that early. We have a bonus brownie round. So you have to complete the sentence. One business mantra, Mr. Biyani, one business mantra that always works.
I think first is to be true to your purpose, right? And so we just said, you asked that this customer is always right, and if that's the truth, I believe the fact that when in doubt, and if you're unsure about what decision you're going to take, do what is right for the customer. Right? That's the way one has to approach it. Keep life simple. Right? Don't try and forget the fact that the core purpose is to satisfy a customer. Right? So there is not beyond that. Second, detailing is an important hand. Unless and until you grasp what is going to be done. Right? If like in our business, action is on the floor of the store. Right? You rather spend your time there because that's where the learnings are. Right? They're not there in a boardroom seeing a dashboard, right? Dashboard that sell their stories. Of course, it's important. But if you really want to learn a lot more, you have to be on the floor.
Mr. Lohia, the one thing that keeps you up at night?
Keeps me up at night. If I have a fight with my wife, then how to pacify her? That keeps me up at night. Yeah.
And with that, we have cracked the secret recipe of business until the market changes again next week. This had been an incredible session, insightful, candid, and packed with real business wisdom. A huge thanks to Rakesh Uncle actually and Vikas Bhai for sharing your experiences.